Hello there. Welcome to the first episode of Beautiful Mess, brought to you by Mina Busisiwe Batlamin. In this first episode, I would like to unpack some perspectives for you to think about, to reflect on when it comes to dark forces. And I want to talk about it from an empowering perspective. There are many things that darkness can do to get a hold of you. And accidents happen. Mistakes happen. That is one thing that you need to be aware of. It is unhealthy and it will drive you mad to think that every single bloop that happens to you or around you is because of umoya omubi. Please hold the reality that mistakes do happen. However, there is darkness as well. Sometimes there is something bigger at play. And what you need to understand is that sometimes that bigger thing that is at play is not intentionally sent to you. Again, it's part of the reality we live in, where umoya omubi exists, and it can manifest in various ways. And it can happen that it will target you and it will hit you and it will affect you, but it wasn't intentionally aimed at you. So first of all, let's talk about the intentional one. Yes, there are people who will do things around your energy and around your existence to hold you back from any kind of progress or a specific kind of progress. And then there is the energy that comes because of how somebody is holding you emoyen, how somebody is holding your existence, how someone is viewing your existence. And that one is the less intentional one, but it still does have your name on it. And then there is also a form of darkness where it doesn't necessarily have your name on it. It is also not an accident. It is still a force and something bigger. And that also comes from the reality of our existence, that there is funky energy in the air at times. There's funky energy at the air at times. And that particular energy, which was not sent to you, which does not have your name specifically written on it by another person, that dark force that is like the unnamed, it can exist and it does exist because we live in a world where there is good and there is bad. And sometimes that dark energy that is not particularly intended at you and that doesn't particularly have your name written on it can still affect you. What I want to try and do is help you understand and help you navigate your way around it in terms of how you view it, in terms of how you deal with it. Darkness is very sneaky, as it should be. Darkness is very sneaky because more often than not, you will think you are first going to look at what's happening in front of you. It will have you feeling like you're going crazy. It will have you feeling insecure. It will have you holding so much of imposter syndrome. Any kind of insignificance that you feel within yourself or inadequacy, it will leave you feeling like you are a mess. And maybe you are a mess. That is also a factor. You are a mess, maybe. And that's another thing, because it will play on your existing weaknesses. If you have, for example, a short temper, it will play on that. You will find your temper making you do all sorts of scary things, or thinking all sorts of scary things. It's very sneaky in that way, because it'll find the things that you already struggle with and that you're already weak in, because that is a great way for it to hide. And hear me when I say this is also not an opportunity for you to disregard accountability. You are still accountable for the things that you are weak in. You are still accountable for the things that you need to improve in, for the things that you need to be better in as a person. You are still accountable for that. All I'm saying is that dark energy the dark will also play on those things and exacerbate them and add fuel to them, so that they are these raging fires. And it'll take you a while to realize that it's actually, there's something else happening to you. Because you're so used to those things, because you know you are that kind of person who is, for example, short-tempered, because you are so used to the fact that you generally do suffer from depression, or, just there's certain insecurities and certain mental illnesses and just certain disorders and certain challenges that we face within our existence, within our personalities, within our qualities as people. And we will think that, it's just that, because that is what I carry, And that is how darkness gets sneaky. And it takes a while. It can take a while for you to realize that, something is not right here. How do you even begin to have that conversation with yourself where you say, I know I'm short-tempered, but also something else is happening. You have to be very well acquainted with yourself, and you have to be completely aware. Your intuition needs to be on top, and that's another problem, and that's another way that darkness comes in. We're so distracted. Darkness thrives on our distraction. We're so distracted, and it becomes so easy for the dark to play with us and just idlale ngathi, ngoba amehlo wethu avalekile, indlebe zethu zivalekile. We are just walking through this world blindly because of all the things we need to do, because of all the things that we've been socialized into, because of all the things that we have learned, because of the people that we hang out with. There are lots of things, there are lots of influences to our distraction. There are lots of things that keep our distractions in check, And then it gets even worse, because you try to de-stress, and maybe you're a person who likes to drink and smoke and just take in some toxic substances here and there to try and de-stress, and you feel like you're feeling better, but you're not feeling better at all. And that's again how the darkness is sneaky, because you are poisoning yourself. You are slowly killing yourself. You are distracting yourself even further. And ultimately, you are losing more of yourself. You are moving further and further away from yourself. But it will keep growing, and it'll keep settling inside of you until you actually reach a point where it feels like it is you. Now you believe that the state that's been, this power or this thing that got a hold of you way back then, you couldn't figure out what it was then. You couldn't quite put your finger on it, and you didn't quite do anything about it, and it stayed with you, and it stayed with you, and it grew and manifested through you in all sorts of ways. And now here you are. Eventually you find yourself at a point where the dark lives now inside of your personality. It lives inside of your personality, and it has snuck its way into your identity to the point where it even feels normal to you. Where it feels like, yeah, this is how I am. This is what it is. There are a lot of things that happen during this whole process that serve as red flags for you. There are a lot of things, and it always is a hindsight moment for us, but we're always being served red flags. And in that way, life is quite fair. Life is fair in that way. If you look back on your life and you look back at all the places where there were real fuck-ups, there's not a single person, and I'm saying this confidently, there's not a single person who's going to look back on some of the mess-ups that happened in their lives and say to me, they didn't identify in that reflection and in that looking back, they didn't identify moments of red flags. There's no one who's going to tell me that, because you are afforded those red flags, you are served those red flags. You will never go through this life in complete darkness without red flags. There are red flags. It is how we responded to those red flags. Some people are better at responding at red flags than others. Others really suck at responding at red flags. Others really don't see red flags. Other people are too arrogant to look at that red flag. We're too stubborn to look at the red flag, or we want to take the risk anyway. Like, okay, fine, I saw the red flag. I'm willing to live what that red flag is showing me, But red flags are there, warnings are there always. Sometimes they are in the form of feelings, sometimes they are in the form of actual physical things that happen around us. They are in the form of people's words and the things people say. They are in the form of, like, maybe you picked up a book at that point in time in your life and you read something and it touched you and it moved you and you were like, oh wait, that actually speaks to that situation. There are all sorts of ways that the red flags come through, right? And your intuition really has to be at its peak, and you really need to be clear of blocks, to really receive those messages, and just really be aware. And that's our biggest problem. Awareness is it almost seems like a luxury. Intuition almost seems like a luxury, but it's not really a luxury. It's just that we allow ourselves to get too distracted. We allow ourselves to get too consumed with the things of this world. So it's not something that some can have and some can't have. Some of us are just more distracted than other people. Some of us have more distractions than other people. Some of us have more blocks than other people. It happens. But that's the darkness. The darkness will feel like it's part of your identity, and therefore you don't even see it anymore. Now it's just there living with you. And it lives with you, and it can live with you for years. I mean, you can survive. You can survive, right? And that's another thing. People think that, oh no, but I've been fine. I've been fine. Just because you didn't end up in hospital, and just because you managed to do the bare minimum for yourself, or you managed to get yourself a house and get yourself a good job, and you managed to achieve certain things, but more often than not, you may have followed a path that wasn't really yours. You kind of just took what was there and made it work. Or there is more. There is more that is supposed to come to you. There is more that you could get. Like, sure, you have this good job, but there's actually more that you could get from this workspace. So there is more that you can get from whatever you're doing, like whatever kind of lifestyle you're leading. There is more. There is abundance that is waiting for you, and you are unaware of how much more there is for you, because you are unaware of just how held back you are by this thing that has formed part of your identity. If you think about times where you told yourself that if you look back at your life and you're like, I once wanted to do this, and it's still somewhere there in your heart, but because it didn't quite work out, or it didn't quite go the way you wanted it to go, you settled for the next best thing, which, because it's comfortable right now, you feel like, oh, maybe that other thing really wasn't meant to be. Sometimes, yes, something was really not for you, but if you're still carrying it, and it's still something that haunts you, and you still look back on it and you say, yeah, I once wanted to do that, or I wish I could have done that, that can really be a manifestation of how that dark held you back when it became so much a part of you that it held you back from the abundance that you probably would have gotten, from the joy, from the growth and the progression you probably would have gotten if you had actually continued to chase that particular thing. But also there is, yes, definitely the reality that sometimes the things that we're chasing are the things that are not really meant for us. That is a thing too. And that is another thing that the dark can do. It can make you chase things that are just not yours, that have absolutely nothing to do with your life path. They are things that like you have no business chasing, and you tire yourself from chasing them. You tire yourself and you think you're being ambitious and you think you're chasing your dreams, but you're chasing the wrong thing and you're tired and you're chasing the wrong thing because your path is completely, the path you've taken is completely skewed, because no, that's not the thing that's yours. That's not your truth. So darkness blocks you in that way. It'll block you in that way. And hold that. I want you to hold that and think around it. And think around it and think of how this may have happened in your life. How it may have happened. Just do a little reflection. Look at all the things you wished for. Look at all the things you wanted. Look at all the things you do want. Look at all the things you do wish for. Look at where you are right now. And just have an honest reflection with yourself on whether has all of this happened the way that my heart really desires? At which point did I give up? At which point did I get tired? At which point did I start feeling weird about things? At which point? This is especially for people who are not necessarily well orientated when it comes to spirit, who are not necessarily well orientated when it comes to cleansing, when it comes to releasing. If you are a person who doesn't really release whatever they're feeling, if you are a person that doesn't cleanse at all, if you're a person that doesn't take time out and take breaks, if you are just so consumed by the things you're doing because maybe the family relies on you, because the company is supposedly going to fall apart without you, etc., etc., and all those other stories that we hold that keep us away from ourselves. If you are that kind of person, especially, this is for you especially. And I just want you to hold that, because I want you to be honest about where it is that it kind of went skew, or where it is that it always kind of goes skew for you, and why it is that way. Why do I feel this when I do that, and why does this happen when I try to do that? And again, like I said, mistakes happen. Mistakes happen. But dark forces do exist. That's why it's important. That's why it's important to cleanse. That's why it's important to take time out. That's why it's important to meditate. That's why it's important to practice self-care in all ways. That's why it's important to see a doctor. That's why it's important to see a healer if you are really way off. That's why it's important to find ways and spaces for you to have time for yourself so you can listen to yourself. That's why all of these things are important. All these things that people sometimes deem to be airy-fairy and like whatever. That's why that's important. Because you need to understand how you're steering and navigating your life. And if you're steering and navigating your life accordingly. That is the one thing. Another thing about dark energy and dark forces is that as sneaky as they are also they can be clumsy. They can be clumsy. It's not all intelligence over there. Because really, the dark relies heavily on our ignorance. The dark relies heavily on stupidity. The dark relies heavily on unawareness. The dark relies heavily on blindness. So if you are someone that is unaware, if you are someone that is ignorant, if you are somebody that doesn't really expand their mind much, because I don't want to say not intelligent, but if you are someone who's closed in that way, who's closed in the mind, like really your mind, you just don't expand your mind. The dark loves people like that. The dark thrives on people like that because they don't see what's happening there in front of them. Sometimes it can be that obvious. You have just been promoted and you are now in charge of a certain group of people, and all of a sudden things are just feeling weird. Just little, you're feeling weird, first of all, because it usually always starts with how you're feeling inside. It starts with the feeling, and then when the feeling happens, and when you ignore the feeling, then it starts to grow, and it becomes an actual physical manifestations around you. An accident here and there, a car accident over there, here and there. You're feeling sick for no reason whatsoever that you can think of. You're fighting suddenly with other people. People seem to just not want anything to do with you. You just got promoted. You just got promoted, or you just bought a house. Or you just bought a nice car. You just, something of growth. You just got your degree. Something of growth has happened to you. An achievement, a milestone has happened to you. And all of a sudden now things are going haywire. That is, more often than not, a force at play. Whether it is a force that is, again, I go back to, some of these forces have your names on them, and some of these forces are there unintentionally. Sometimes it's not that a person is wishing bad upon you, but they are jealous of you. They are upset. And it's mostly with themselves. They actually are upset with themselves. But that's not how it will translate for them in that particular time, more often than not. So they are upset with themselves, but it manifests as irritation towards you. It manifests as ishlo uyadina, But really, umuntu odinayo yibo. Umuntu abadinayo bayazidina bona. Whatever lack your success triggered in them, That too can be a thing. Or you find that you are so close to achieving something, and then suddenly things are just going otherwise, and things are going wrong, and everything has been going fine, and now all of a sudden, now that you're actually now so close, lento lena man ngathi, it's just not happening. There are forces at play around that, and it's always going to be tricky to determine what kind of force it is, how intentionally it is for you, whether it has your name specifically on it. But there's definitely something happening around that point in time that's trying to stop you, that's trying to trick you into giving up on your thing, tricking you into thinking that maybe you are not worthy of that thing, that maybe that thing is not actually supposed to be for you, tricking you into holding it with less courage, tricking you into holding it with less ambition and less love. Because now you're obviously going to have funky feelings around it, because why am I not getting there anymore? What's going on? What's happening? And now all of a sudden, the thing that brought you the most joy, that dream that brought you the most joy, is now something that you hold with less ambition and less love and less light, because it's just not working out. And sometimes you must look at the journey that you took for you to reach a certain place. Sometimes you must look at all of the things that happened for you to reach a certain place. Look at the process that it took for you to get a certain position. Look at how the whole thing played out. Look at how the whole journey played out, how smooth it was, or how you were being validated each time, and how you were feeling stronger and stronger each time. And then suddenly, when it's now at the end there, that final stretch is needed, it just falls apart. You look at how the path of your things came together. Because if the path of your things was coming together, and it was coming together, and it was coming together, and suddenly at the end it just feels like, oh my God, it's a big fuck up. Like, oh my God, now all of a sudden I'm feeling tired. All of a sudden I'm feeling sick. All of a sudden I just don't have the energy to do this. All of a sudden the people that I was talking to are now acting weird. All of a sudden the people that were agreeing with me are all acting weird. Investigate that, because like I said, it can be clumsy. I mean, that's a clumsy look for me. I'll say for me, it's a clumsy look that everything was going great, and then suddenly, when you're just about to get it, things are going wrong. For me, that's clumsiness. And you need to recognize the clumsiness of it all. The parts where it doesn't make sense to you, there's a reason why it's not making sense to you. It's because something else is at play. Something else is happening. As soon as it doesn't make sense to you, as soon as a certain kind of win, a certain kind of achievement, a certain kind of progression, a certain kind of growth is interrupted, and that interruption doesn't make sense to you because all this time things have been moving, you've been growing, you've been doing great, and now all of a sudden here at this critical part, things are just falling apart, things are just going haywire, and it doesn't make sense. If it doesn't make sense to you, there is a reason why it does not make sense. It is not always enough to just say, I'll let it slide. No. There is a reason why it doesn't make sense, and you need to investigate that. You need to investigate that. Do not let darkness make you fall back. Do not let darkness make you sit down. Do not let darkness make you hide, because those are all the things that it wants you to do. Because as a result, you're tired, you're over it. So now you walk away, now you hide. Now you end up saying, you know what, it's not worth it. How can it not be worth it at this critical point when all of these days and all of those nights that you were sweating for it, it was worth it? And now here at the critical part, it's not worth it. You need to also just look at those kinds of things. Look at your mentality around certain things. Like some things just won't make sense to you. Ukuthi why manje ngila? Why kanjani ukuthi ngila? As being nomfutho ngale nto le, now all of a sudden mase kufanele ukuthi manje ngempela manje izinto zivuleke. And again, that's another thing that I want you to hold. But always know this. That's another thing I want you to hold and reflect on for yourself. Because of all the various ways that things can manifest, and because of how individual our problems are, I will never be able to speak generally about how we go about tackling each thing. I could never do that. You need to do that for yourself. You need to figure out for yourself how you're going to go about tackling each thing. And sometimes that will require you to get help sometimes. I mean, it's okay to get to a point where you say, you know what, I actually need help. I actually need to speak to someone. I actually need to see someone. Get to that point as well. Don't be stubborn about it if that is how you're feeling. But also at the same time, don't rely on that only. Reflect and sit with yourself and be like, okay, where is it going wrong? What's going on? Like, what is up with me? What's up with me? What's up with me? What's going on in my life? That's why it's important. Cleansing is important. Protecting yourself is important. Taking care of yourself is important. Putting yourself first is important, because you need to be the main reference for yourself. You need to be the one to actually stand up and say, something's not right here. And that's why it's important. Self-care is important. That's why healing is important. That's why you need to clear because you need to clear the blockages that are happening in you. You need to clear every single bit of toxic dirt, energy that is blocking you, that is blinding you, that is making you unaware, that is keeping you so distant from yourself and from your truth and from your path. That is why it is important to practice things that result in you clearing blockages, that result in you breathing better, that result in you being more aware of yourself and hearing yourself more. Because you need to know when things are weird. You need to know from inside yourself first when things are weird. You need to know from inside yourself first. And there are things that you need to do to keep the inside of yourself clean and healthy and open for you to be able to be your reference. And don't just let things make you sit down. Don't just let things make you give up. Don't just let things make you less ambitious. Don't just let funk be funk. Investigate. Figure it out. Figure out why is there funk. Question funk all the time. Question funk. Do not deny yourself of blessings and abundance. Do not deny yourselves of all the wonderful things that are waiting for you, all because you decided not to question the funk. And so the funk kept you in a place where, this is comfortable. This is enough. I'll leave it at that. God knows how much more you're supposed to be getting. God knows how much more you need to be doing. God knows how much more is waiting for you. God knows how much bigger you can become. But you didn't question the funk. You didn't tackle the funk. And so the funk kept you in a place where you remained small. The funk kept you in a place where you thought where you just wanted to be comfortable, where it felt comfortable. The funk kept you in a place where you felt like, who am I to ask for more? Who am I to want more? This is enough. I've got enough. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I've got enough. No. 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 Question the funk. Tackle the funk, and don't let the funk make you sit down. Don't let the funk make you sit down. Guys, dark energy does exist. Dark energy does exist, and it manifests in so many different ways. And you need to be aware, man. You need to be aware, and you need to not allow yourself to take the instructions that it throws at you with its subtle ways. The darkness throws instructions at you. You don't realize it, but the darkness actually throws instructions at you. Because when you get to that place where the funk is happening, in that place it's saying to you, you sit down, you walk away, you give up, you are not worthy, you leave it alone. And what do? You leave it alone. You sit down, you walk away, you leave it. You do all of those. You find yourself just like, now we are uchitha konke lokho ohamba nako, uchitha inhlanhla zakho, uchitha ibusiso zakho uzibeka phansi, and you're saying, well, that's that. No, it doesn't work that way. And you need to listen. You need to, like, when you're navigating, you need to just listen and look at the things that this situation is making you do. Look at your actions, look at your behavior, look at the things that this situation is making you do. And draw clues from there, draw insight from there. Where in those actions are you acting naturally? What are those actions stopping you from doing? Like, okay, fine. So this situation is making me behave like this. My behaving like this is causing this to halt. It's causing that to go away. It's causing you to stop doing this. It's causing that to fall apart. Look at those actions. Look at your actions carefully and really interrogate, Uguti, what does this situation make me do and why? And as a result, what am I being prevented from getting? As a result, what am I doing more of that maybe I shouldn't be doing more of? Where does this situation make me go? What spaces does it make me find myself in? Who does it end up making me talk to? Question those things. Question those things, and I guarantee you will find places, and you will find sections, and you will find some kind of twistedness that's happening in the whole thing. You will find something, Jay, that doesn't make sense, that just doesn't come together. Like, when's I land? Like, no, man, this doesn't make sense. And therein within that process, that is where the dark is clumsy. Because somewhere there's going to be somewhere in all of your interrogation and in all of your reflection and in all of your really looking inside of yourself where something just doesn't come together, where there's a hint that is left there by the dark, by its clumsiness. There's a hint there. And you might even feel it. It might even shake you. You might even feel yourself going, oh my God. Like, oh shit. You'll feel it. It's the thing that will stick out like a sore thumb. It's the thing that it will move you in a way. It'll shift something in you. And that is where the clumsiness is. There's always going to be some kind of clumsiness because there's always going to be some kind of unnatural thing that's happening. Something that is just, it's not you. Like, it's not you. You feel that this is not me. This is not a me thing, man. You know? And then again, accountability is still a thing. Sometimes you need to take accountability for yourself and not only blame outside forces for your things. Please also take that into note. And that is not something that I want to get into as well, because that's a whole other conversation. But that's what I want to bring to you today. The importance of your self-care and your cleansing and your looking after yourself. The importance of understanding the clumsiness of the darkness and the importance of understanding the nature of darkness, and the importance of understanding how to navigate your way around it, and the importance of doing all that you can to make sure it doesn't form a part of your identity. The importance of being aware, the importance of being awake, the importance of not taking instructions from the dark. Be aware, be awake. Be aware, be awake. Be aware, be awake.